Hi everyone, I thought I would put out a brief update video on how things are kind of going and kind of just looking at the social cognition chapter just a little bit and some further reading if anyone is really interested in some of these things. But discussion boards seem to be going really well overall. You guys are leaving numerous comments, and I had just sent out an announcement a couple weeks ago just encouraging you guys to make sure you look at the discussion board rubric and that on that rubric it indicates just to make sure you're leaving a couple posts on a couple of your peers threads as well to try to encourage conversation. But I feel like overall you guys are putting some really good effort into that and making some good connections and good ideas, and just keep it going. Don't be afraid to bring in other areas of psychology experience and just trying to make different connections with things and in your responses to your peers or asking questions to your peers. That's always great too. So great work overall with that. Working to stay on top of that with you guys. Please make sure you read my feedback. When I give you guys a grade, I give feedback to each one of you. One of my teaching assistants, Mary, is also going to start doing some of the grading on the discussion board. So look out for her feedback too. She's fantastic. So I hope the first couple weeks have gone great for you. I want to just throw out there, I started reading some of your discussion board 2 comments, and some of you seem pretty interested in some of the ideas in this chapter. One of the ideas that the book goes over is the idea of automatic versus kind of controlled thinking. And if you like this idea, there's a really, really awesome book out there called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. Some of you have probably read it. He's a pretty well-known modern-day author that writes on some really interesting ideas. I love all of his books. A lot of them have a lot of psychological components to them, and he writes just really well. So Blink is really about that rational versus intuitive type thinking, which kind of aligns well with this controlled versus automatic thinking. To give you a little bit of a preview, maybe get you a little bit interested, he kind of opens with this event that happened in New York. I think it was like 20 or 30 years ago, where this big, I don't know any of the specific names here, but this big famous art museum in New York City was considering buying this really, really old Greek art sculpture that was supposedly hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. They got it authenticated, they ran all these tests and so on and so forth, and big ordeal whether they were going to buy this or not. They ended up buying it, and it was a big piece for this famous art museum in New York City. Well, after they bought it, they had a couple more experts kind of just come and see it just to say, hey, here's an awesome new art piece. And one of the experts just kind of looked at it and said, that's a fake. And then after that, they had some more kind of experts look at it. And they had already had other experts validate it, but a couple other experts said, that's a fake. So, and when they did more tests and some other things, they found out that indeed it was a fake. It was a very, 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 very good fake, but it was a fake. So Gladwell argues that experts in fields, no matter what field you're in, but when you have this certain level of experience, you can make what's called accurate snap judgments, which means that essentially your intuitive reasoning can outweigh or be a lot more effective than your rational or controlled reasoning. And throughout the book, he gives many, many, many more real-life, interesting, research-based examples of this. And it just really gets you thinking, because oftentimes we think that rational, controlled type thinking is the best, and that's certainly not always the case. And I'm sure you can bring examples of this up in your own life where, you just kind of knew something intuitively and it was correct. Or something was off to you and something was off to you. It's hard to really explain that, but you just kind of know something's there. So definitely check that out. It's Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. I recommend any other of his books too. Again, gets your brain really thinking. And he also has a podcast out called Revisionist History that got put out this summer. That is also awesome. You can find it on iTunes. It's free. kind of little 45-minute segments of he kind of goes through some interesting things that have occurred in history and how they may be interpreted incorrectly. And they're really unique things. And I can't think of an example off the top of my head now, so I'm not going to flounder over it. But definitely check it out. So I hope you're all doing well, and feel free to email me, of course, anytime.